Hello again, guys, and welcome again to the channel. For today, we have another Spider-Man Magic the Gathering standard format deck tech, in which we found this list from the recent uploaded deck list on the mtgtop8.com website. If you're not familiar with that, it is one of my main source for deck builds, and particularly since I was at the build of black-green mid-range, so that was one of my resource websites to look for some builds. But anywho, today's deck build, we're going with red and white. I played Boros before, but it was the Boros Unbook version, and this time this will be the control equivalent, and this was played by Cute Chandra 19. It was one of the top finisher decks in, I think it was MTGO League tournament event. So let's take a look at what would this deck would be the potential. So we have 19 artifacts, 8 enchantments, which goes with, of course, this card. If we are familiar with the metagame, weapons manufacturing is one of the recent builds that goes around artifacts. We have 4 instants, 25 lands, and 4 sorcery in the form of this very good card advantage sorcery spell, United Battlefront. So let's grind down each of the choices. So for the artifacts, of course, since the theme would be the control deck, we would expect a lot of cards that would basically prevent your opponent's board from developing. So for aggro matchups, of course, just Rose Reliquary would be your choice. This is an artifact that costs you an artifact or creature to sacrifice to cast, so it can also exile an artifact or creature the opponent controls after it that leaves the battlefield. And one would be of its next value to satisfy this is to use Card Cake. So Card Cake is a 2 mana cost artifact from Boros. It goes to create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token in Scry 1, and then you can basically have this ability as a food to sacrifice it later on to gain 3 life, or you can just pay this as a requirement for the Rose Reliquary, therefore also triggering this Scry effect and also creating a 1/1 rabbit creature token. So for the other 2 drops here, you can see that the main combo piece of this deck would go with Legion Extruder. So Legion Extruder basically gets you to ATB effect to damage to target, but the only important thing here is you will pay to sacrifice another artifact to create a 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature token. So if you can see, weapons manufacturing effect, casting or entering a non-token artifact you control to the battlefield under your control is creating this munitions token. So this munitions token can then be used to sacrifice to create these 3/3 golem artifact creature tokens. And to take note, munition token would also get to deal damage to any target as it leaves the battlefield. So that is your good synergy of this card. Also, for the artifacts to prevent some shenanigans is having a Perilous Snare that is 4 copies in the deck. You can exile any non-permanent as long as this in the battlefield, and has trigger to start Regenerations, wherein if you get to max your speed, you can have this +1% counter on target creature or vehicle you control only at the sorcerer speed. And also one of the probably the main board sweep for this against aggro is Pinnacle Starcade. So Starcades would exile artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less until this leaves the battlefield. In the late game, you can put each of the exiled card or artifact into the graveyard and create this 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each of these cards that was placed in the graveyard for this way. So late game is a sweep. It's a sweep early game, and then late game you would have also to creating this army of robots to go to your board advantage. And for other enchantments here that goes well also with token creation is this talent from Boros, Caretaker's Talent. Whenever 1 or more tokens you control enter, draw a card. It only triggers once, but at any time also it can also trigger to your opponent's turn, and whenever this becomes level 2, create a token that's copy of the token you control, and have this pump ability to create tokens you control gets +2/+2. This might not be relevant here unless you get an army of these 3/3 golem artifact creatures, but nevertheless, creating these additional tokens and drawing a card would already get you some good card advantage. Then the only instance in the main deck is of course Torch Tower. It's kind of lean also to the aggro matchups. It can deal 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and then if you have be able to bargain this, it will deal 3 damage instead, and you will scry 1. And those permanents was dealt damage this turn would die, they would be exiled. So any recursion effects or like the enduring curiosity effect would not trigger with this torch to the tower effect that is dealt damage. And let's see why I've mentioned that United Battlefront would be the best card here because of its ability to look at the top 7 cards and then put up to 2 non-creature non-land permanent with mana cost 3 or less to the battlefield and put the rest in the random order. So non-creature non-land, you can see here we have a lot of non-creature non-land permanents here. Trigger Perisneer, you can trigger Extruder, or you can have Caretaker's Talent, the weapons manufacturing, to deal free or cast it free with the effect of United Battlefront. And that for your lands, of course, mana fix, since it is a control setup, you need at least 25 lands for it to function and not miss your land drops. The mana fixing would go with the Verges, Second Foundry as a reprint standard, and of course Inspiring Vantage. This is now in Outlaws in Thunder Junction set, and the bonus also Final Port, which works well with the Caretaker's Talent of creating tokens and also get you to sacrifice a token to draw a card. And of course, wrapping up the lands are your basic lands, Mountain and Far and Plains, 5 copies each. Now let's take a look of the rundown of the sideboard, which we see as also aligned with the current meta game. Main deck, post game of the game 1 against aggro, we have authority of the consoles to fend off haste creatures. So opponent's creatures come simply tap, and then whenever they enter, you will gain 1 life. So that's 4 copies in the deck. We also have against Graveyard Shenanigans, we have 3 Rest in Peace for death matchups, also with those that recur or reanimator decks. And Voice of Victory may be against control because you need to resolve your spells. Your opponents can cast spells during turn, will also get you at 1/3 body with Mobilize 2 to deal extra early damage. And best, of course, mid-range maybe could be against mono red, maybe on the tokens deck. Can also be a benefit for this. It gets you to bonus creature with the bluefish tokens, draw a card, and also gain 4 life if your opponent has more life than you. And lastly, Chandra Spark Hunter against maybe control or other mid-range decks that would have less creatures, because of course you can stop their creatures with your spot removals of their artifacts, and you would also sustain this as your damage late game because of having to create this 3/2 colorless vehicle artifact token, and then you can have that vehicle become an artifact creature and gain haste until end of turn. So that pretty much that's the matchup to set up. It's good that the pilot has made this kind of very straightforward card choices, unlike me that I am used to one elves. This is really a good sideboard plan for any other player that may try this deck build from their card pool. And let's take a look at the stats. It's more than white, particularly 26, with only 12 for red, but production is pretty much even, so it's kind of safe to go with this deck build, where you can see that the mana fix here is very much sustainable for avoiding and avoid mana and color screw. Average mana value is 2.31. It's surprising for a late game, but you know that we have still a lot of activations here, like for instance Legion Extruder, and maybe going with the level up of the talent, and also having to cast Battlefront in the hard cast mode. And let's take the tokens of this deck. We have 9. Wow, we have many of these tokens. So we have Fish token, Golem token, that's Extruder. The Munitions, this is the Munitions card generated by manufacturer. The Rabbit token from Carrot Cake. The Robot token from the Pinnacle Star Cage. Of course, Fountain Port and Besa produces Treasure, the vehicle produced by Charles Spark Hunter, and Warrior Token by the Voice of Victory. So pretty much this is like a very basic, straightforward Boros control deck. It goes still with the extruder manufacturing shell of getting card advantage in the late game for that one. But I think pretty much this kind of deck build would not be, we can say, as like unusual or not in the meta game, or we can consider it as a tier 2 deck build for the standard format. But I think this would still be an interesting take. If you want to try this or you have played this one before, just let me know in the comments so we can have a good discussion of how this deck would work and maybe some of the other card choices here, since we have a lot of 4-ops. Maybe we can cut a few then and put in some of these spicy additions for this deck archetype. So again guys, this is Boros Control for Spider-Man standard format. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notifications on, and see you on the next video.